I'm Melanie Hunt, and you're watching As the Market Turns. It is December. Can't believe this year's almost over. Don't we say that every year? Anyway, happy holidays. I hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving. Let's jump right into it. So in November, we saw 6,779 new listings hit the market. That is down about 25% year over year. We had a total of 18,915 homes for sale in Metro Atlanta. 4,267 of those went pending, and then 4,350 of those closed in November. So we had less new listings come on the market. However, total homes for sale is up about 55% year over year. Less listings are coming on the market, but they're staying on the market for longer, or they're not selling. And then we've had less pendings and closings by about 50%. Less transactions have happened since last year. So supply, we are up to about 2.5 months of inventory. I mentioned this last month when I was talking about how the headlines read like it's a super scary market out there. But the fact is that 2.5 months of inventory is still a seller's market. There is still very little inventory, and there is still buyer activity. While it is dramatically reduced what it was earlier this year based on interest rates, there is still buyer activity. What does that mean? Well, it means that we've kind of moved more into a normalized market. What we're seeing is that list price to sales price ratio has come back down to this earth side, where earlier this year we were at like 103, 104% of list price. Now we're back to like 99, 98% of list price. So last month, the average sales to list price ratio was 98% and the median was 99.3%. What's interesting though is that the average sales price to original list price was 95%. So there's been a lot of overpricing happening. Overpricing, thinking that they're still pricing based on the market continuing to do like this, when what's happened is the market's gone like this. So we're staying kind of flattening out, we're plateauing versus continuing to climb a mountain. And sellers and agents have not caught up to that flattening. So we're seeing a lot of price reductions, and those average list price ratios reflect that. Days on market, median is up to 19 days on market. The average is at 33. Very normal numbers. Very abnormal numbers was the 5 days on market that we were seeing for the last year and a half prior to June. Overall sales price, the median for Metro Atlanta is at $360. That is up 4% year over year, down about $11,000 over October. And then the average is up to $422,873. That's up again 4% year over year, and then down about $15,000 over October. We are seeing those sales prices start to kind of come back in line with overall seasonality, being pushed down just a tad based on interest rates being so dramatically increased. Year over year, we're still seeing an increase. So does that mean that you necessarily lost equity in your house? It depends on when you bought it. Price per square foot, we're at a median of $176 a square foot. That's up 7% year over year. We're at an average of $188 a square foot, and that is up about 5% year over year. So what I like to see for an indication of buyer activity in the market is shows to pending and shows per listing. Tracking right now, average shows to pending is 14. So every house that goes under contract or pens is getting an average of 14 showings on it and a median of 9 showings, okay? And then shows per listing is at 4.8. So every house that's on the market is getting an average of 5 showings per listing. So what's interesting is that before the pandemic, what we saw was that there was this very much a tale of two markets. So there was the houses that looked great and were priced right, and they sold quickly for top dollar, okay? And then there was like the second and third parts of the market. That second part of the market was maybe there's something funky about it or it's a little overpriced. It's gonna sit for a lot longer and it's gonna sell for significantly less. And then the third part of the market is they're completely delusional and it ain't selling. They're just testing the market, the listing ends up expired or withdrawn, and they decide to do something different. Either they get a new agent, relist it, new marketing plan, find a new price, and get real, or they decide to stay in their house. So that shows to pending versus the shows per listing, to me, tells that story. Where if you put your house on the market without the right price or without the right marketing plan, you might be one of the ones that sits there forever with only 5 showings. If you've got those things in place, you are likely going to get the 14 showings and get it under contract. So there is still buyer demand. While it has decreased like 40 to 50% over last year, we've seen a massive decrease in the amount of buyers that are out there in the market based on interest rates and overall prices being so high. There is still demand and things are still moving. So we're still at only 2.5 months of supply and things are still selling for pretty close to their asking price. 90% is pretty good. The other thing that I'll say is the shows to pending and the shows per listing comparatively. If you look back historically, you would have to go back more than 3 years to see that amount of buyer activity be lower than that, right? So it's not like we have 0 buyers in the market anymore. We still do have buyers. That amount of showings per listing is still a good amount of showings. In 2019 and before that, the average shows per listing was like 3 or 4. And the average shows to pending was like 7, 8, 9. And now we're at 14 and 5 shows per listing. So all that to say, there's still a great amount of buyer demand out there. And if it's the right time for you to make a move, now might be a right time. We are working with a lot of our clients right now on figuring out a 2023 plan for them, real estate wise, whether they're going to sell or buy or do both or invest. A couple exciting announcements that we have coming in January. We have our buyer seminar, new home buyer seminar coming up. And then we also have a invest in real estate seminar coming up. We're super excited to share with. That's one of the things that a lot of our past clients ask us all the time is we've got some extra money and we'd like to invest in real estate. How do we get started? So if that's something that's on your radar of like, hey, I might want to learn a little bit more about that, then check in. We've got an Eventbrite set up. And I believe that date is January 14th in the morning. We have like coffee, bagels, and donuts. So get in touch with that. Make sure you're following us on Instagram. We have some really fun giveaways coming up. We do our 12 days of Christmas, and happy holidays. Thanks for tuning in.